The message came in while I was in the middle of an important meeting with a client. I glanced at my phone and felt my heart stop. The text read, "Your dogs needed a better home with people who actually care about family. I found them one. Maybe now you'll learn what matters." My hands went numb. My stomach dropped like I had just fallen off a cliff. I couldn't even speak. I mumbled an excuse to my client and walked quickly into the hallway. My fingers shook so badly I could hardly press the call button. I almost dropped my phone. Susan answered on the first ring. Her voice sounded proud, almost like she was happy with what she had done. "What did you do?" I whispered. My voice was barely there. It was too weak to carry all the anger and panic I felt. "What I should have done a long time ago," she said calmly, like she had done me a favor. "Those dogs took up all your time. You even missed Nicholas's birthday party because of a dog show." "A dog show, Barbara. Do you know how much that hurt him? He's your nephew." I leaned against the wall, trying to stay upright. The world felt like it was spinning. "Where are my dogs, Susan?" I asked, trying not to cry. "They're safe," she replied, "with a family who will love them like they should be loved. A real family. Not someone who cares more about winning ribbons than spending time with people." I couldn't breathe. My 3 New Zealand Brandenburg, Shadow, Luna, and their daughter Storm, were not just pets to me. They were everything. I had raised Shadow since he was a tiny puppy. I trained Luna when everyone said she was too stubborn to be a good dog. I watched Storm take her first steps in my living room. They weren't just dogs. They were part of my family, part of my heart. "Susan, those dogs are worth thousands of dollars. They're champion show dogs. You can't just give them away," I said, desperate. She laughed, cold and bitter. "Of course, that's what you care about, the money. Well, too bad. The family that has them now has kids who will play with them and love them. They won't be treated like trophies anymore." The call ended. I didn't even remember hanging up. I called my brother Paul next, hoping he could help. It went straight to voicemail. I raced home, my mind spinning the whole time. When I got there, my keys still worked, thank God. But something felt wrong the second I walked in. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No barking. No paws clicking on the floors. No excited greetings. Their beds were gone. So was the cabinet where I kept their food and treats. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt empty. Just like me. The cabinet was empty. The one where I kept my dog's food, their leashes, and all the grooming supplies, completely cleared out. My heart sank. Susan had been planning this for a long time. Every time we were at a family event, she would make little comments. "The dogs always come first with you," she'd say with a smirk. "Must be nice to have so much free time for silly hobbies while the rest of us focus on real family." She never understood. After our parents died in a car accident 6 years ago, my dogs became my reason to keep going. They gave me purpose. They gave me comfort when everything else felt too heavy. At first, my brother Paul understood. He even came with me when I picked out Shadow, my first New Zealand Shepherd. But then he married Susan, and slowly, everything changed. Suddenly, my life and my dogs were seen as a problem. Something to be fixed. But Susan went too far this time. I called the police right away. When the officer arrived, I showed him everything. My dog's registration papers, their competition awards, health certificates, and official records. He flipped through the documents and gave a serious nod. "This isn't just a family argument," he said. "This is felony theft. $60,000 worth of stolen dogs," I said clearly. My voice was steady now. "Do you have proof she took them?" he asked. I showed him the text Susan had sent me. Then I played a voicemail where she said, "The dogs are gone, Barbara. Deal with it. Maybe now you'll remember what family really means." The officer let out a sharp breath. "That's enough to start," he said. Right after that, I called Ashley Judd, my lawyer. I explained everything as quickly as I could. "Send me every message, every screenshot," she told me. "She put it in writing? Good. That helps a lot. If she sold the dogs, that could mean fraud on top of grand theft." While I was scanning and sending her documents, my phone buzzed again. It was Susan. "The police?" Seriously, she said, laughing. Way to prove my point. Paul is so disappointed in you. I didn't respond to that. I stayed calm. Where are my dogs, Susan? I asked. They're safe and happy, she replied. The family I gave them to promise to give them a good home. A normal home. Not your weird little show dog prison. I didn't say anything. I let the silence hang in the air until I could hear the nervous edge in her voice. Then I said quietly, Susan, those dogs are microchipped. They're registered. Their bloodlines and titles are on file. You didn't just give away pets, you stole living beings with proof of ownership. And now, she was going to find out just how serious that was. What you did isn't just mean, Susan. It's a crime, I said firmly. So I'll ask you one more time. Where are my dogs? There was a long, shaky silence on the other end. I could almost hear her breathing. Then finally, in a quiet voice, she said, they answered an ad. Paid cash. Said they live near Springfield. I didn't say another word. I hung up and got to work. By the next morning, every dog breeder, rescue group, and dog show organization in the state would know what had happened. My champion New Zealand Brandenburg were missing, and the word was spreading fast. Their microchips would be flagged. No one would be able to re-register them or claim them without getting caught. And the police were already involved. Susan thought she was teaching me a lesson. She thought this would make me realize I cared too much about my dogs. But she didn't know what she'd just started. She had no idea the storm she was about to face. The next day, my posts about the stolen dogs had gone viral in the dog show world. My phone didn't stop buzzing. I was getting messages from breeders, trainers, handlers, and even judges. Everyone was outraged. The New Zealand Shepherd community is close. News travels fast, and people were already searching. Then my phone rang again. It was Betty, my mentor and friend. She had helped me train Shadow when I was just getting started. Your sister-in-law did what? She shouted. I already called all the major registries. If anyone tries to sell them, rehome them, or change their names, we'll know immediately. The police were doing their job, but I wasn't waiting around. I had turned my living room into a small command center. My laptop was open. My phone was charging next to it. I had printed out a map and marked every possible location within a 3-hour drive of Springfield, any place where someone might be keeping 3 valuable show dogs. Then, around noon, my brother Paul finally called. Barbara, this has gone too far, he said right away. His voice was tight, like he was angry and nervous at the same time. Susan was just trying to commit grand theft. I interrupted. She stole and gave away 4 dogs worth more than $50,000. She didn't just hurt me, she destroyed years of hard work, training, and careful breeding. They're just dogs, he snapped. This is exactly what Susan meant. You care more about them than your own family. I took a deep breath and held onto my phone tightly. Those just dogs are my work, Paul. They are how I make a living. Storm's puppies alone would be worth thousands each. I paused. But since we're talking about family, yours just committed a crime. He was quiet. You wouldn't really press charges, would you? He finally asked. But I didn't answer. Because the truth was, maybe I would. You wouldn't really press charges, Paul had said, but I could hear the fear in his voice. Watch me, I told him. An hour later, I got the call I had been waiting for. It was Kimberly Loaiza, the woman who runs the largest New Zealand Shepherd rescue in the state. One of my volunteers might have seen your dogs, she said. A family brought in 3 Aussies to our vet clinic yesterday for checkups. They said they had just gotten them from someone online. My heart started pounding. Do you have their address? Asked, barely able to speak. Even better, she replied. They're coming back at 3 p.m. for vaccinations. The vet scanned the microchips. They match your dogs exactly. I could hardly breathe. I thanked her quickly and hung up. Then I called Officer Jonathan right away. We'll meet you there, he said. Don't approach them alone. The next 3 hours felt like the longest of my life. Susan called again, but I didn't answer. She left a voicemail this time. Her voice was shaky and full of panic. Barbara, please. I didn't know they were microchipped. The family seemed nice, they have kids. Just call me back, okay? I didn't. At 2:30, I parked across the street from the vet clinic. The police officers arrived shortly after and stayed low, trying not to attract attention. At 2:45, a white SUV pulled into the parking lot. I held my breath. Through the car window, I saw them, Shadow, Luna, and Storm. My dogs. My champions. My family. Everything after that happened so fast. Flashing lights. Police stepping in. The confused family being asked questions. And my dogs, seeing me, running straight into my arms. They were just as relieved as I was. The family looked shocked and upset. The woman said she thought she was helping her sister rehome some dogs. The man shook his head and said she really sounded honest. Told us the dogs needed a real home and a normal life. While the police spoke to them, I checked each of my dogs. Storm's coat, which was usually soft and perfect, was now a mess. Luna was trembling. She was so scared. Shadow, always the brave one, stayed right by my side and refused to leave me. Then my phone rang again. It was Susan. This time, I picked up. "The police just left our house," she said, her voice tight and panicked. "Barbara, please, I didn't know it could lead to felony charges." I didn't respond right away. I looked down at my dogs, finally safe, and felt everything catch up to me, anger, sadness, and relief. Susan had wanted to teach me a lesson, but now she was the one learning what it meant to cross the line. "I thought I was helping," Susan said. "Helping who?" I asked, my voice cold. "Yourself? Your ego?" She hesitated, then said, "I thought the dogs would be happier. The family had kids. A big yard." I let out a dry laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Happier?" I repeated. "Shadow has hip problems. He needs daily medication. Luna has a special diet or she gets sick. Storm was training for the national championships. Did you think about any of that? Or were you just trying to punish me?" There was silence. Then she asked in a quiet voice, "What do you want?" "Not from you, Susan," I said. "You already made your choice." She took a shaky breath. "Paul says you're pressing charges." "Please. I could lose my job if I get a felony." I stayed quiet for a moment. Then I said calmly, "You should have thought about that before you stole 4 champion show dogs." "But they're back now," she said quickly. "Everyone's fine. Can't we just forget this and move on?" I looked over at my dogs. Storm was curled up in her travel bed. Luna was finally calm. Shadow rested his head on my shoulder. They were safe, but they weren't fine. And neither was I. "No, Susan," I said. "We don't just move on from this." I ended the call. Officer Jonathan walked over and handed me some paperwork. "The family gave a full statement," he said. "We have the texts, voicemails, and proof of the dog's value. The district attorney is moving forward with charges." I nodded. "Good." Just then, a message from Paul popped up on my phone. "Mom would be ashamed of you for doing this to your family." I took a deep breath before typing my reply. "No. Mom would be ashamed of you for defending a thief just because you married her." As I drove home, Shadow let out a soft sigh against my shoulder. Luna dozed off in the back seat. Storm stretched out and relaxed in her spot. Everything was where it belonged again. Well, almost everything. A new text popped up on my phone. It was from Ashley, my lawyer. "The DA's office is moving forward. They're offering a plea deal. Want to hear it?" I smiled. The lesson wasn't over yet. Susan had a choice now: face felony charges for grand theft or accept a plea deal. That deal would mean a lesser charge, 3 years of probation, counseling, and paying for the damages done to my dogs. "She'll also have to give a public apology," Ashley said as she handed me the agreement. "The DA understands how much this hurt your reputation in the show world." And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like justice was finally being served. I looked over the terms of the agreement carefully. The money Susan had to pay would cover everything: Storm's missed championship grooming sessions, the work to fix their coats, and Luna's vet bills from stress. "She's already twisting the story," I muttered, "telling everyone I'm choosing dogs over family." Ashley, my lawyer, gave a small smile. "That's why the apology is important," she said. "No more playing the victim. The truth is on record now. Susan had taken the plea deal. She didn't really have a choice. The evidence was strong, and her job was already at risk. Her school district had placed her on administrative leave after hearing about the theft. The morning of her court appearance, I sat quietly at the back of the courtroom. Shadow was lying calmly at my feet. As a registered therapy dog, he was allowed to be there, and I wanted Susan to see him. To really see the dog, she tried to give away like he didn't matter. When Susan walked into the courtroom, she looked very different from her usual self. No fancy clothes. No confident smile. She looked tired and worn down. Paul wasn't with her. I guess the stress and legal costs had taken a toll on them both. The judge looked down at her and said, "Mrs. Walker, do you understand the terms of your plea agreement?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said. Her voice was so quiet I could barely hear her. "Please make your statement for the record," the judge said. Susan swallowed hard and began. I apologize for taking Barbara's champion dogs without permission and giving them away. I now understand that they weren't just pets, but working dogs with special needs. What I did was wrong. I caused harm, and I accept the consequences. I will pay the money back and go to counseling. The judge nodded. Let the record show that the defendant has agreed to 3 years of probation, mandatory counseling, and $40,000 in restitution. After the hearing, outside the courtroom, Susan tried to come over to me. "Barbara, please," she said. "Can we talk?" Shadow stood up slightly in front of me, calm but alert.
Susan paused when she saw him.
She looked at him differently this time, not as just a dog, but as what he truly is. A partner. A helper. My family. "There's nothing to talk about," I said, my voice steady. "You showed me who you really are. The only reason you're sorry is because you got caught." Her eyes filled with tears. "The family's falling apart because of this," she said softly. "Paul barely speaks to me. And Nicholas, he keeps asking why his aunt hates us." I didn't reply right away. I looked at Shadow, at the calm strength in his eyes. "Maybe someday he'll understand," I said quietly. But this was never about hate. It was about doing what's right. I looked straight into Susan's eyes without flinching. "You did this, Susan. Not me," I said. "You thought taking away what I love most would give you power. So, tell me, how did that work out for you?" She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't wait for her answer. I turned and walked away, Shadow right beside me, loyal as always. 7 months passed, and life slowly found a new rhythm. Storm finally earned her championship title. Luna was no longer nervous or stressed. And Shadow stayed strong, always by my side, my steady rock. The dog show community had supported me the whole time. People saw how much I loved and protected my dogs. I even gained new clients who wanted me to handle and train their dogs. They trusted me because they saw I wouldn't back down when it came to doing what was right. As for Paul and Susan, they separated not long after the court case. Paul reached out to me a few times, but I wasn't ready to talk. Maybe someday. For now, space was what I needed. The distance helped me heal. Susan finished her counseling and got a new job at another school. Her public apology, which the court required, was shared online and spread fast. As it turned out, I wasn't the only person she had guilt and tried to control. A lot of people began to see her for who she really was. One quiet evening, I sat on my back porch, watching Storm play with her new puppies. Luna and Shadow sat nearby, keeping a close eye on the little ones. The sun was setting, and everything felt calm and peaceful. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my old neighbor. "Your sister-in-law just showed up at your old house. I didn't know you moved. She brought a casserole. Said she wanted to make things right." I looked at my dogs. They were safe. They were happy. They were home. Shadow looked up at me and trotted over, resting his head gently in my lap. I smiled and scratched behind his ears. "Thanks for the heads up," I texted back. Some lessons take longer to learn than others. Maybe Susan would figure it out one day. That real family, whether it's made of people or dogs, is built on trust, kindness, and respect. Not guilt. Not control. But if she never did, that was okay too. I already had everything I needed. Shadow let out a deep, happy sigh as I rubbed his soft fur. In the yard, Storm guided her pups through practice poles, learning just like she once did. Luna watched with calm eyes, her tail wagging slowly. Champions, all of them. Not just in a ring but in life. Sometimes the best kind of family is the one you choose. The one that chooses you back, every single day. Susan never understood that. But I did. And I had no regrets.